Determined to use the skills the angel has promised him to live a very lazy life. Shockingly, when he opens his eyes, he realizes that he is a baby. While it would seem fortunate, he is born to royalty. Seeing him, the queen is excited. On the other hand, the king is pleased, most especially since they thought of a prince who would take after the both of them would be really impressive. Looking at the prince's chest, he sees that he bears the royal insignia on his left chest. With this, he doesn't doubt the fact that the child is theirs. Meanwhile, the man, seeing that his parents are royalty, consoles himself with the thought of being eighth in line for the throne. However, the king immediately orders for a magical assessment of the prince. He seeks to know what the maximum mana level of the prince is. He believes this will be very high since the prince is being born to the Flash princess, who had defeated the Demon King. He believes this will make the prince's mana level to be at least 40 or 50. Shockingly, he is told that the prince's level is 2 and he has no element. This means he can only use barrier magic. Hearing this, the king is surprised. He wonders how a good-for-nothing prince could be born to him and the Flash princess. He believes the existence of the prince would cause outrage amongst his subject. To this, the queen agrees. They immediately decide to tell the council that the prince died during childbirth. Hearing this, the man is shocked, more at the fact that he would be dying immediately after reincarnation. Since he was surrounded by awful people in his past life, he didn't think he will meet people like this in this world. While the king seems keen on disclosing the prince, the mage tries to caution him, but he orders the mage to be silent. Instead, he orders one of the maids to dispose the child in the forest. When the angel sees this, she begins to panic. When asked what happened, she reveals that she had given the man overpowered skills and no one in the human world had realized it. This happens because the measuring device in the human world can only go up to 2 digits. Also, she had forgotten to give him an element. I know you're curious about what she set his level to. Well, she set it to 1002. That is an outrageous number for a human. Shortly after, the man finds himself in the forest, placed in a basket. Alone, he remembers the mage had sought he can use barrier magic. To save himself, he tries to use the barrier, trying to figure out a way to visualize it. On his first trial, he comes up with a cuboid. This makes him pleased at the thought that magic can be so easy. Furthermore, he finds out that he can enlarge it and give it a differenter color. He tries to make the cuboid into differenter shapes and realizes that he can make it into anything he thinks about. Just then, he finally tries to use it for himself and is able to shield himself with it. Then, he raises the cube with him in it, and surprisingly, it works. This makes him realize that his power is more useful than he had thought. He believes it doesn't eyes mana. This makes him confident that if he is attacked by a wild animal, he can defend himself. Surprisingly, his thought is cut short as he is attacked by a large wolf. The wolf tries to eat him up, and it ends up biting the cube around him. Seeing how functional the cubes are, he decides to create a bunch of other cubes in a bid to attacking the wolf. Unfortunately, the cubes are small and have no effect on the wolf. Since this doesn't do damage to the wolf, he decides to use something bigger. He makes use of the cubes to lift multiple trees which he throws at the wolf. The trees fall in the wolf and it also easily stands up. Then, he decides to go bigger. This time, he lifts a large portion of the earth and directs it towards the wolf. Seeing the large earth approaching it, the wolf begins to beg for mercy. At first, the man doesn't hear her, but when she screams louder announcing her surrender, he stops. Later on, after the attack had been halted, the wolf reveals that it had tried to eat HKM in order to replenish her mana, but didn't know that he would be so strong. She seeks to know what he is, but he surprisingly cannot talk since he is a baby. This surprises the wolf, who thinks that his behavior is too logical for a baby. The amount of mana emanating from the baby makes the wolf ask if he is the Demon King reincarnate. Since he was pretty unknown in his past, he doesn't reveal that, especially since this would make him look like a loser. Due to this, he accepts that he is truly the Demon King. Hearing this, the wolf is shocked to her bones. However, she sees this as a reasonable explanation for BJ's strength. Due to this, she lies on her back to admit defeat and asks him to kill her. Not wanting to do so, he states that he is fine, as long as she doesn't attack him. She sees this as an utmost act of generosity. This causes her to swear to him, promising to keep that promise, especially since she is a proud flame Fenrir. Having heard this, Haruto refers to her as Frey, and says goodbye. Since he referred to her by a name, she forms a pact with him, referring to him as her master. With this pact, she swears to devote herself to him. He finds this to be confusing since he only shortened her name, and never intended to give her a new name. However, she doesn't seem interested in what he says at this point. Suddenly, he becomes weak. Wondering what the problem is, Haruto realizes that it isn't a problem he can solve with magic. This problems happen to be that of hunger, and he needs some milk. To give him some, the wolf transforms into a human, determined to do anything for her master. Seeing her life, this makes him uncomfortable as she has no clothes on. Even after she puts on SKME clothes, he still complains about how eye-catching she looks. At that moment, she gets ready to give him some milk, but finds out that she has none to give. When she realizes this, she apologizes to him. While they talk, she notices someone approaching them. Just then, she asks for permission to kill them. However, Haruto cautions her not to do so, and JNSV learn how to communicate. He urges her to ask them what they are after. Then, he uses his magic to create a link with her to tell her what to say. Just then, the two are approached by a man who claims he is a relative of the baby's parents and had come to save the child. He tells them a story of how his wife was unable to give birth to a child and asks to be allowed to take the child. While Frey refuses, he offers to give the child the milk he needs. Seeing this, Haruto is hungry and wants it, but she insists that he doesn't need JT. Eventually, she agrees and they follow the man to his house. Loves him. While he tries to blend with the family, the little girl don't want to be friends with him. Since she wants them to be close, the mother suggests that he gives her a gift. Meanwhile, alone in his room, we realize that he now has a clone of himself which he has magically made. He intends to use this on the occasion of his departure. Efforts he had put into making the clone move and speak have proved to be futile. However, this will be hard since the clone cannot move or speak. At that moment, his father calls him and he heads down to see a Fu fencing setup. His father instructs him that he has to learn fencing, but he insists that he only wants to learn ancient magic. At this moment, he makes to leave, but he is stopped by his father, who assures him that he needs to learn fencing. Then, H3 hands him a wooden sword and Taze to attack him. Before he attacks him, he flies up in the air and dodges the attack. Seeing this, his father is shocked. He wonders how someone with little mana level and no element is able to do this. At this tomb, Haruto had also hit his sword on the GR Lind, causing it to break and serrating a hole on the ground. When his father T2'd to attack JN return, he jumps swiftly J in the air, and TH6 shocks the hell out KF his father, who sees this as SL nothing someone with a level 30 mana would be able to do. They end the fencing for that day with a lot of questions unanswered. While few were fighting, his little sister named Charlotte sees them and witnesses all that had happened. She too is shocked at the kind of skill shown by her brother. Efforts he had put into making the clone move and speak have proved to be futile. Later on, the man to teach him some sword fighting skills and realizes how powerful he is. This makes him realize that he could be a demon. Later on, when he tells his wife about this, she believes they can still take care of him. He tells her about how the Hild could be the offspring of the Demon King. This surprises us since he had said earlier that the child was related to him. Does this mean he is related to the Demon King? The mother seems to be so bothered about guys that it gets her thinking. Even though Haruto is not her child, she is left with nothing but a heart of worry towards all that his father had told her. They, however, come to the conclusion that the boy could be raised as a human and be taken care of. Apparently, the young girl is hearing this and ponders on the thought of her brother being a demon. This makes all her estimations about him a reality. She is left with the thought of her brother being a demon or a human, and this gets her thorn Jan two ways. If you like this recap, do let me know in the comments, and obviously leave your like too. Do not forget to share with your friends and subscribe. Above all, activate your notification bell so you don't miss the next recap when it drops. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.